You're listening to Dag. Live from Dag Nabbit Studios in Chicago. It's the Dag Show. Featuring Dag. You're listening to Dag. Get your Dag hats on. And some other people.
Welcome to the Dag Show, everybody. I'm Dag. Maybe you've heard of me, maybe you haven't, but I'm very excited to be here today with Stephen Mueller. You know, rock and roll has been a really funny thing when it comes to Chicago music. We're sandwiched between the two coasts, New York and L.A., and often overshadowed by all the wonderful music, from blues all the way to rock and roll, that has come out of this city. But it's not just the music itself that made a difference to Chicago. It's the people behind the music. And the people behind the music is what really stimulates me and gets me excited to talk to this gentleman today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sitting down tonight with Stephen Mueller to talk about rock and roll, somebody who's important to the music business, all the people he knows, all the people he's met, and why celebrities all over the country are in love with this guy. We'll be right back here on The Dag Show.
Get your Dag hats on. Get your Dag hats on. It's the Dag Show.
You know, I'm sitting here with Stephen Mueller, a Chicago icon. You are an icon, you know that, right?
Well, thank you very much for saying that.
Everybody knows who you are. And you're a very special part of Chicago musical history, especially when we come from the 80s into the 90s. And here we are. We're in the 2020s. Yeah. And you're still kicking along here.
It's hard to believe.
And become even more relevant over time. And I think that happens a lot in rock and roll. Author of 9 books, one of them Almost Famous, which is a fantastic book that you wrote.
Thank you.
It documents all this craziness you've gone through in rock and roll and all these people you've met. You're way cooler than me, you know that? So listen, let's start talking here. I've been reading the book Almost Famous, and it's really interesting. I was really blown away by how many of these celebrities, and I watched the YouTube videos that people came out for your 50th birthday. Mm-hmm. And it was just amazing. Jenny McCarthy, the Scorpions. There's a platinum album for the Scorpions hanging up right there.
Say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stephen. Happy birthday to you. Have a nice one with your loved ones and friends. We love you, man.
The Scorpions came to your house? They came here?
Yeah, they've been here once. Yeah, that was many, many years ago. But yeah, they actually even hung out with my mom at the time, and it was cool. It was interesting, and you know, I was obviously much younger. I mean, this is like 1988, 89, something like that. It was the Savage Amusement Tour, and I was a huge fan. I mean, I'm still a fan of theirs, but. You know, at the time it was like even cooler, and so it was really quite an experience.
Well, let's talk about how you got started in this in this business, because when you were a young man, and we're about the same age, when you were a young man, you decided you wanted to get into writing about artists, and you went out and said you owned a newspaper that you didn't have yet.
Right.
And you had, and all of a sudden people like Ozzy Osbourne and stuff their management started calling you back going, we can't wait to be in your metal magazine. That didn't exist. Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, I was a teenager still. I was basically a teenage kid, and I was really into the music. And like many people my age, I enjoyed the music. I idolized a lot of these people at the time, and I thought, gee, it would be really cool to be able to have a reason or an excuse, I guess you could call it, to speak with some of these people at the time. And, I would often go to the newsstand and pick up, some of my favorite magazines and things like that.
Which were,
like Hit Parader, Circus, Rip, magazines like that. And which actually I ended up, ironically, years later getting some of my photographs into like things like Hit Parader and magazines like that. But, at the time, in the beginning, to be perfectly honest, I just wanted an excuse to meet some of my favorite rock stars in the beginning. I thought that would be neat. And so that's really how it began, but it evolved into obviously so much more later on. And, but that's how it started. I began putting out a really small, really cheesy, which when I look back now is really embarrassing, but really that's how it all began, a small... if you want to call it a newsletter, it was actually photocopied and stapled, and it was just in very limited quantities, and but a local publisher of a local magazine saw it and decided to pick it up and invited me to be part of the staff and to have a monthly column in the magazine. That was Tony LaBarbera, the late great Tony LaBarbera from the Chicago Rocker, and that enabled me to gain more exposure, and which in turn allowed me to interview bigger and better artists and network with more and more people, not just bands and recording artists, but industry people, record label people, publicists, and things like that, and to really get to know the sort of ins and outs of the business. And so that's initially how I began and got my foot in the door. And then that was really, in hindsight, that was really the hardest part, is like with anything, is just getting your start. And, after that, it just kind of, snowballs on its own, not completely, but, for the most part.
Well, we know a lot of the same people, and unfortunately, I'm sure our paths crossed, but we didn't realize it over the years. But when you had first started this fake metal magazine, you went to Dino Manzella,
yes,
from Seventh Heaven fame,
right,
and After Night Productions. Actually, at that time, I don't even know if he was with Seventh Heaven, but he said, "Listen, I need some help." So tell that story, because it's really an awesome story, because I've read it in your book, and I've heard it from Dino himself. He's trying to print this out on like fax paper.
Yeah. He helped me out quite a bit in the beginning, and in terms of doing the layout for it, for the initial newsletter, which I called the Chicago Metal Report at the time, and like I say, that was later incorporated into a regular monthly feature in the Chicago Rocker. And Dino helped me out a lot. I know we did a lot of interviews jointly, together. I remember one of the first was an interview with Queensryche, which was one of his favorite bands, and that was really neat. And it just kind of took off from there.
And so it moved on. So now you have this Chicago Metal Report. It clearly you can't print it. What is your answer? How did you manage when you knew you had no paper, but now all these managers and press people from these major bands, how do you, what do you do?
Well,
tell me about the panic that ensued when you went, I don't have anything to actually deliver.
Right. Well, that was actually like really short-lived, to be honest. That was only a period of like several months between the time I began that and the time when I was actually picked up by the Rocker. So there wasn't really too much trepidation in that, because we were fortunate where we got picked up pretty quickly, and after that it became a legitimate thing, and it just kind of took off from there.
And Tony LaBarbera was he was supposed to be part of some of these interviews that we're doing that are going to be part of this series we're doing with you here. and unfortunately he passed away. We were at his wake a couple of weeks ago. Tell me a little bit about your relationship with Tony LaBarbera and how what he had done for the music business affected you positively or negatively. Let's talk about it all.
Well, obviously, overall it was quite positive, and I think he impacted the entire Chicago music scene very positively. In fact, I don't think there would have. I don't want to say I don't think there would have been a Chicago music scene without Tony, but certainly not at the level that it was. I mean, he had his hands in so many aspects of the Chicago music scene, whether it was through the Chicago Rocker or whether it was through some of his compilation, record releases that he did, or just in terms of booking bands, the Gateway Theater shows, which were like huge at the time.
Right.
I mean, I remember going to those, and they were just packed with probably thousands of people. I mean, so it was always a great time, and there was always this sort of I guess you could say, like, air of excitement, like, with everything that had to do with the Chicago music scene at the time. And, we even went out to L.A. a few times together. He got a contingent together, that he led, where we went out there for the Foundations Forum every year, which was great because, a lot of the industry people on the West Coast, we could sort of rub shoulders with and meet all these people, like, not only famous bands and musicians, but a lot of industry people, a lot of record label people, and, it was just a really great opportunity, and I think he did really great things for the Chicago music scene as a whole.
He really did. He was very important. There's really, as far back as I can remember, really just a handful of people who really, the Terry McGoverns, Tony LaBarberas, the Joey DeMarcos, that were really pushing in the 80s, in the early 90s. A lot of these guys were younger then, a lot of ambition that was there. But then, here's what happens. You start to become this guy hanging out with all the celebrities. How the hell did that happen?
Yeah.
How? I mean, seriously.
Yeah. Well, actually, I didn't pre-plan anything to discuss on this interview, but it's kind of funny because you're asking me about, times back then, and with Tony LaBarbera and with the Rocker, for example, and there's so many funny stories. One of my favorites actually was I always set up my own interviews at the time. I pretty much decided what was going to be in my column, and I was the one that set up and organized the interviews. And in sort of a rare break from that, one time, actually as a favor, I think, to someone that he had met at the Foundations Forum convention in L.A., Tony had organized for me, this is so embarrassing, by the way, for me to...
That's my favorite part of the interview.
Yeah, for me to interview Keith Richards from the Stones, and he was doing a solo show at the Aragon Ballroom. And I'll never forget, I was just so stupid and so naive. I mean, I was a teenage kid, and this is so embarrassing to say now. At the time, I didn't know who Keith Richards was, right? I swear to God. And so, like, I was really not interested in doing the interview. And that same night, a block away at the Riviera downtown, the band Vixen was playing. And being a teenage kid who didn't know any better, and watched MTV, I thought, like, ooh, Vixen, they're hot. I want to go, hang out and interview them instead. So I did. And I totally blew off Keith Richards. I stood him up. And the next, I didn't think anything of it. I got a great interview with Vixen and with Eddie Money. I still remember they were opening for Eddie Money that night. And, I was pretty proud of myself, pretty happy. I came home, went to bed, and I was awakened early the next morning. My phone rang, and I was still half asleep. I answered the phone, and it was Tony, and he was just irate. He was not real happy with me. And he said, well, what the heck happened last night? You blew off Keith Richards, and I got chewed out this morning. And I said, oh, Tony, don't worry about it. I mean, who's this Keith Richards guy anyway? I said, I got something so much better. I interviewed Vixen last night, and he was just, obviously not pleased, and which I understand now. And now I'm so embarrassed. Really, I shouldn't even tell that story, but I just think it's kind of funny. So,
Yeah, by the way, you just told that story.
Right. Yeah, I guess I did. So,
But so this continues to grow, and so let's kind of stop right there. So now, as you're growing up as a teenager, and you have these, what were your favorite bands out of Chicago? What are the bands that really stuck in your mind that did great or didn't go so
as far as local bands, Chicago bands? Well, there was quite a few that I really enjoyed. I mean, I liked bands like actually Def Con at the time. I don't know if you remember them. They were working with DKP Studios out of Villa Park, which was like this really sort of state-of-the-art at the time, professional studio, rehearsal space, recording studio. I liked them. I liked a lot of bands way back in the day, bands like Smash Alley I enjoyed. I ended up working with and managing a couple local bands, but that was basically based on my friendships with members of the band, bands like Wicked Rhyme, bands like No Romeo at the time they were called, and really I enjoyed a lot of Chicago music, a lot of different bands, really too many to name.
What do you have when you started to represent bands? I mean, what was the best advice you would give a band? I mean, listen, here in this business, I have a management company. I represent a band called 1096,
right.
and as a manager, you got to give advice. Well, let's start here. What do you think bands fail at the most?
Boy, that's a tough question. Probably at, I would say, like I think we've had this conversation before, basically like maybe self-promotion, being sort of self-motivated, in terms of bands realizing that, you can't just sit back and expect everyone to do everything for you. You have to be your own sort of advocate for your own band. I mean, you have to be the one, the spark that begins everything, and that it starts the excitement once to generate interest in the band and to get people out there to see your shows, to buy your products, just to get excited about your band in general.
So the bands, do you feel that the bands have a bigger responsibility than their management in that department?
I would say it should be about 50-50. It should be about equal, yeah.
So what are the bands that you think did the best in your time, in this industry? What are the bands that you're most proud of that you worked with?
Well, that's
I know these are loaded questions.
Sort of a tough question because, well, in terms of local bands, the band that I worked with that I was sort of most proud of, I actually, unfortunately, we sort of parted ways on really bad terms at the time. So I preferred...
What are those bad terms? So, see, this is the stuff that bands need to hear. So what happens? You're a manager of a band, okay? You're a local guy managing a local band that you believe in. Mm-hmm. What dissolves? What dissolves that relationship?
Well, we went through everything together for several years, and they just seemed to decide sort of behind my back one day that they suddenly thought that they could find a better manager. And so I got a strange phone call one day from the guy who was the replacement bass player in the band, a guy who I had helped bring into the band, and he just left me a very sort of like impersonal voicemail saying, we had a meeting and we've just decided to move on and, basically fire you as our manager and, so on and so forth. And, I wasn't real happy about that at the time. And, but it is.
Where are they now?
Absolutely nowhere.
Absolutely nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't know which camera I'm looking at, but I'll tell you, absolutely nowhere. Pay attention, bands. The reason you hire a manager is because you don't know dick. Right, Steve?
Yeah.
So, So now you go through all this, and then as your career goes, you've written 9 books.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's entirely almost separate from the entertainment industry. But that's more or less just a hobby. But yeah,
this one almost famous. You can get this on Amazon, can't you?
Yes, you can.
Great book. I would suggest picking it up. It's a lot of fun. Look at how handsome you are.
Yeah.
Look at you. I do the same silhouette kind of pictures as Steven did here.
That's me. That's me acting, because that was actually a bitterly cold morning down at the lakefront. It was like a February morning, and I'm just, I'm sort of pretending like, oh, I'm nice and comfortable. But yeah, that was
you were freezing.
Yeah, that was pretty brutal. Yeah.
Well, so now you've gone through all this, and then all of a sudden your popularity starts to continue to rise with celebrities. How in the hell does that happen?
Mostly just networking.
But what was see? This is where I think our listeners and readers of this book would become going, how did he get here? I mean, this book is loaded with photographs of every famous person on earth and all these wonderful things that people have said about you and what kind of a guy you are. Wow, how genuine you are, which is one of the things that brought me here. How does that happen? And then what do you do with it?
I'm reminded of a conversation I had with a friend of mine, a local friend from a very popular band who I've known for many, many years. We had Chips Enough.
Chips Enough.
Yeah, and we had a conversation a while back where he said, he made the remark that he said, almost everything in the entertainment industry is based on personal relationships, and that is so true. And I think that really sums up everything to answer your question more than anything else, because really it is based on personal relationships, and it's all about networking. And, I don't mean just with rock stars or bands, more so with industry people, like label people, publicists, record label people, managers, that sort of thing.
Well, you're absolutely right about that. I mean, the one thing that I try, and I talk a lot, as you know, and now being part of the museum, talk a lot with younger bands, upcoming bands. I'm out chasing new music all the time. That's part of my role with the museum, is looking, as being a historian with the newer music in the future of rock and roll in Chicago. And being able to network and be honest and tell the truth is what I push out to bands.
Right.
We got to take responsibility for our failures as much as we do our successes. Just had that conversation remarkably this morning. Mm-hmm. So that being said, what is the best advice you would give to because the music industry has changed. We've had this change. Back in the day, in the 80s and the 90s, man, there was no internet, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube. There were every time you wanted to promote your band, you had to pay the entertainer, you had to pay Suburban Nightlife, you had to pay my newspaper, Showcase Midwest, you had to pay to advertise. Now you have these things that are free, and what I notice is bands don't take advantage of it.
Right.
You have thousands of fans amongst all the people in your band, and you do nothing to promote to them. So what would be your advice to give them as somebody who not only managed bands but promoted bands? You were a promoter and you had all these connections, you worked hard to get to them. What's your advice to give to a band today? With all this new media.
Yeah, that's difficult because I haven't worked in management directly in a number of years. But as you said, I mean, things have changed drastically. Since the 90s or whenever. There's so many more tools available now, which we didn't have back then. Absolutely. I mean, bands should take advantage of every tool at their disposal. I mean, like you said, everything with the internet, promotion on there, YouTube maybe, videos, even Facebook, groups, start a page for your band. I mean, just anything you can do to bring exposure to your band or your product, I mean, is always a good thing.
Isn't it funny when you just say it out loud how simple it sounds,
and
yet
really
you
is.
Still can't get people to do it? I mean, back in the day when you would see bands out there, this is one of the reasons I think, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, the LA scene became so big in metal, heavy metal, especially hard rock. These guys were hawking CDs and cassettes at the time out of their car, putting up flyers everywhere. Bands like Poison and Motley Crue, they were constantly pushing. It's like, hey, we're playing here. Hey, we're playing here. Hey, we're playing. They didn't care who they approached. It didn't matter.
Right.
And this is how these bands got recognized. This is something in Chicago. And I'm curious to your opinion on this. You know, when I had Dag Nabbit back in the 90s, the only people and the music that still does it is the hip hop and rap.
Right.
You know, they still hawk their wares that same old school way on the South Side. Bands here, rock and roll bands in Chicago, in my opinion, have a tendency to be quite complacent and lazy.
Right.
They think it becomes the club's problem to promote them. And if you don't have those connections, you know, like you had stated, and been networking and being part of it for a long period of time, you're at a disadvantage. Right. But the hip-hop community is still doing it the same way they did it in 93, 94, 95, 90, all the way through 97. It's the same thing. What's your thought on that? I mean, what do you think about today, a rock and roll band out of Chicago hawking their wares old school?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, I think a lot of people have, like you said, become really complacent and just, you know, like maybe they're, I don't know, maybe they're not aware of how to do it properly. But I think more so it's just, like you said, just a lot of complacency on the part of bands. Yeah, certainly. Anytime you can get out there and actively, aggressively push your product, whatever it is, whether it be a band or anything, I mean, that's obviously a good thing. You know, I remember back in the day, I mean, a lot of people sort of used as an excuse, and not that they, you know, had excuses, but a lot of people said, well, we're at a disadvantage maybe because, you know, at the time it was all about like Los Angeles or this or that, and, you know, we're out in the Midwest, you know, so we're at a little bit of a disadvantage. But really that's not true because, I mean, there are a lot of great bands that got signed out of other parts of the country, and, you know, it really is about just like you said, just being aggressive, getting out there, pushing it. You know, just pushing your band, your product, you know, whatever it is you want to market, and you know, just networking. Like I said, just you know, it's not so much what you know, but who you know, and you know, in the one sense that's unfortunate, but on the you know, on the other hand, I mean, it can be really quite beneficial. I mean, if you get to know the right people and you really believe in what you do, I think that's the bottom line. I mean, you really need to believe in what you're doing. You really need to love what you're doing. And, you know, like they always say, like, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And really that's true because I think it really comes across because when you're genuine about what you do and you really believe in it, I think it's sort of contagious and it just sort of rubs off on people and people can kind of sense that about you.
Well, and that's a thing I think that helps make a band great is because it when you really love what you do, it becomes so genuine and so much a part of you. It's you can smell it out of people's pores. You know, you can. That's the difference between watching a band who's playing a gig versus a band who wants that gig. I don't know if I said that right, and that makes sense to our viewers. But there is something about a band that really is hungry for it, that you can see and feel on stage in their music and their presentation. And, you know, I think we can both agree a lot of bands, you know, this is a long shot to make it. I mean, it's a very big long shot. So you're an actor. You know, I say all the time, the music industry, the entertainment business is all an illusion. You know, from the moment you get there, you show up at that club or that venue, wherever you're playing, that fest, you are an actor. Play the part from beginning to end. And, you know, go home and become yourself again when you're with your family, your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever the case may be, and do your thing. But when you get there, you need to act as if. You know, and if you want to be a rock star, you got to play the part of a rock star. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Yeah, I think that sort of goes with the territory, you know, because yeah, you are an entertainer, and people expect certain things from you, and yeah, it's you know, if you want to be successful, I mean, I think it's all got to kind of match up. I mean, I think you need to have a certain image to match whatever product you're trying to market, in order to be believable and be accepted widely by a lot of people.
Now, let me ask you. I'm going to shift gears here a little bit, and we're going to, in a moment here, we're going to take a break. But I want to ask Stephen this question: of the bands that are out there today, and we're going to get to why you may or may not be as involved today as you were, a few years back. But who do you think who have you listened to lately that you think might have the biggest or best shot? Doing something
honestly,
great?
I unfortunately I have not listened to a lot of new music or a lot of local music as of late. But yeah, I would certainly like to, familiarize myself with more of the, up and coming stuff and the new stuff that's out there. I would really be eager to listen to a lot of it. But as far as sort of naming a specific group or endorsing a specific group, I can't really do that right now because unfortunately I'm just not familiar with a lot of the new music as much as I should be.
And we're going to get to that here in a minute on the Dag Show. We're going to be right back. We're going to take a short little break. We'll be back here on the Dag Show. We're going to talk to Stephen about some of the things that's been going on in his life and why maybe he is or isn't aware of certain bands and why he needs to get back into this. We'll be right back here on the Dag Show. Hey, it's Dag. We're back. Welcome back to the show here. I'm here with Stephen Mueller, a music industry and entertainment icon here in Chicago, and author of the book Almost Famous, available on Amazon. And we're talking about Stephen's career here in the music industry and his influence he's had on the music industry since he started writing as a teenager and invented a newspaper that never came out of air, out of thin air, and started getting interviews with the famous celebrities, and then became somebody who was representing bands. And then, Stephen, you got into the PR business. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Well, I mean, people had encouraged me to do that for really a number of years before I actually began doing that. But I began formally doing PR in about 2002, I believe, and that just really changed everything for me. I mean, that took everything into a whole new dimension.
Who are some of the people that you were doing public relations for?
Gosh, a lot of big people. I'm really fortunate, really blessed to be able to say. I mean, not just music people, but later on I even branched out into doing like a couple of films, like film people like Keanu Reeves, Viggo Mortensen, Kirsten Dunst, Oscar Isaac. As far as music people, I actually got to represent my childhood idols, Scorpions. I also worked with members of Heart, like Nancy Wilson, and things like that. And even unrelated things like, I got to work with like Playboy Enterprises. We did the golf tour that they had.
You got to hang out with some bunnies, didn't you?
Lots of them, yeah.
Lots of bunnies.
Yes, I did.
What was that like? I want to talk about that for a little minute.
Was a lot of good times, a lot of crazy times.
Let me get my pants undone real quick. Yeah. So you got to. So go ahead. You got me all discombobulated.
Well, I only got to go out to the mansion one time, but that was absolutely everything that everyone probably pictures it as being. I mean, that was amazing.
Was there a lot of naked people there?
It was the Midsummer Night's Dream Party. That was in 2003, and yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, it was really.
Did you have any sex with
difficult
bunnies?
to describe. Yeah, like hundreds of them. No, no, but but it was crazy. It was really.
No, but really, did you have any sex with a Playboy bunny?
Can I plead the fifth on that?
I'd rather you not. Well, I'm just saying. I kind of want the truth here. Listen, can I live vicariously through you?
I actually dated briefly one person that was a former Playmate. If you read the book, if you buy the book, you can read about that. Yeah, that was really the only thing. I became friends with a couple of. Few people that were, former Playmates, which there's actually a few I still keep in touch with. But yeah, it was a lot of really great times. But we, in terms of professionally, I mean, we just worked 2 years with the Playboy Golf Tour, which was in 2003 and 2009. So, it was a lot of great times with that.
And of the people you represented, who was the worst person you ever represented? That you just, I got to know.
You're trying to set me up here.
I am. Listen, I'll take all the blame. I'm not sure which camera I'm looking at. I think it's that one. I will take all the blame for sucking any terrible information out of Steven. Who was absolutely the biggest handful to work with?
Honestly, I know you probably think I'm just saying this, but honestly, we were really, really lucky, I guess, that we didn't really have many problems at all with most of the clients we worked with, or really any that I can think of. So I guess we were really fortunate with that.
Because you're such a nice guy.
Well, I wish I had some really exciting, sort of horror stories to tell you, but I really don't. So.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk. Let's talk about some stories that relate to. How do I say this? Okay, so you're out there and you're dealing with Playboy. You're dealing with celebrities. Who was your? I guess I'm going to kind of divert from that. But who was your favorite person you worked with in public relations to deal with?
It's difficult to say, but maybe like Scorpions, simply because they were like a band that I really idolized when I was much younger as a teenager. So that. But
they came to your house. They were here. Yeah. The Scorpions were in your house.
But it's entirely different when you actually are fortunate enough to work with them professionally. I mean, that takes things to sort of a whole different level.
But how do the Scorpions, when they show up to your house, do they show up in like a party bus and a limo and a Toyota Camry? You got a Scorpions platinum record hanging up right there.
Yeah, that was actually for my birthday several years ago. Yeah, I mean, it was. I'm not sure what the question is.
I mean, how weird is that the Scorpions show up to your house? I mean, what do you do? Do you go to the door and go, "Hi, Scorpions, welcome. Would you like a bologna sandwich?"
I actually had Keanu Reeves here one time. That was interesting.
Keanu was here too.
Yeah, like a long time ago. Like 1996, I want to say, like way back when.
What was he doing here?
Well, it's really strange. I mean, at the time, I got a job working as his assistant on the set of the film Chain Reaction, which he filmed here in Chicago with Morgan Freeman.
Right.
And so really, in the beginning, he was, I guess you could say, my boss. Then he, shortly thereafter, sort of became my friend. And shortly, several years later, became my client. So, and now we really don't speak, but so that it's just sort of a weird progression with some, a lot of people you made.
We got to get Keanu Reeves here to make, like, if Keanu Reeves came here,
he's a very nice guy.
Sandwiches. Yeah. Just like Keanu Reeves to make sandwiches for us.
We went one night to the Super K over here, a couple of blocks away, which is now a Target store, but that was interesting.
Super Kmart?
Yeah.
Oh God!
Yeah, we were coming back from an arcade that evening, and he wanted to get a couple of beverages, I guess, on the way back to the hotel. So yeah, we
alcoholic beverages or regular beverages?
I believe it was Heineken or something.
Heineken?
Yeah.
Okay. Nothing wrong with good Heine. I'm a big fan of a nice Heine.
Which goes back to the Playboy thing.
Which goes right back to the Playboy. So you're also friends with Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah, it used to be many years ago, but yeah, we haven't had contact in quite a few years. Yeah.
Well, you've kind of lost. You've kind of fallen off the map a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And the reason is because
I've been ill, unfortunately, the last few
MS.
years. So I have MS, and so I've been sort of out of the loop for several years. And but I'm it's taken a long time for me to sort of adjust to that and adapt, I guess you could say, to that. But I feel I'm finally just recently on the sort of rebound from all that, and just sort of emerging from this sort of dark period in my life that I've been in. So I'm very cautiously optimistic about everything, and just kind of excited about everything.
Well, let me ask you a couple things about MS. So we'll get a little bit deep here.
Sure.
Obviously MS is a very debilitating illness, and it's hard. It changes your life in such a dramatic fashion that I can't even personally wrap my head around how it is. Making it tough to get around, to being in from being in a wheelchair to just anything, to using the bathroom and just doing the normal things.
Well, it's the thing. You have good days and you have bad days. I mean, some days you're able to walk fine, and other days, you may be scooting around or whatever. And it's just really very unpredictable illness. I mean, it.
How has that affected you in your mindset and your relation to this thing you love the most about music and the entertainment business?
Well, it's been difficult in the sense that, I mean, my profession required me to travel quite a bit regularly, and since I've been unable to do that, I mean, I have done that. I've gone out to Los Angeles a few times, for a couple of shows. Actually, I'd like to mention, like, I went out there for several of the Rock Against MS shows that they have out there, and a lot of really great rock stars and bands take part in that, and it's held annually. Last year it was canceled due to COVID. It's been rescheduled again for this coming March, and that's a really great organization. So, I mean, I have traveled. I have been out to LA several times in the last few years, but I mean, in terms of working on a regular basis with clients, I mean, my company was always very small. It was usually just myself and an assistant or something like that. So, since I've been ill, I mean, it's really hampered my ability to work because I'm not able to travel as much as I would like to, or as much as I did in the past. I'm still able to do it a little bit, but, not as actively as I would like to. So yeah, it's affected everything. I mean, it's an illness that affects you not only physically, but obviously has an impact on you emotionally, and in terms of affecting your ability to work on a regular basis. It affects you financially. I mean, so it really sort of permeates every aspect of your life,
Do you find that having MS took on a lot of your desire? I mean, did you? Has it created a depression that kept you away from this, or?
I think that was part of it. Yeah, I went through a period of depression. I think any time that anyone is dealt a serious health blow that changes your life dramatically. I mean, I think. I think that's always part of it. I think you always have to go through a period which is very difficult, and you don't know if you're going to really come out of that period. You're stuck in this very dark sort of place, and you don't know if you're ever going to see the light of day again. And on top of that, and I don't want to get too deeply into this, but I mean, at the exact same time, I was going through for the last 5 years a very difficult situation. With my ex-wife, with my in-laws and all that sort of thing. So that certainly didn't help my health, because it's an illness that's exacerbated by stress. And when you have extreme, sort of nonstop, life-threatening stress from morning till night every day for years, is obviously going to affect you. So, but just recently, I mean, I've had several things happen in my life that have really improved things, and so I'm very optimistic right now, and I'm
What are those things?
Well, I just recently met someone that's very nice, and so I'm optimistic about that. A shout out to Lola is her name. So I don't want to get too deeply into that, but I'm sure, hopefully you'll be hearing a lot more about that in the future. And, and as far as business wise, I mean, I'm just trying to get back into it, get back on my feet, get back to doing the things that I love, the things we just discussed, the things I used to do. And so I'm actually quite optimistic right now. All things considered.
So this new relationship, and I'm not going to tag on it with Lola, but do you find that that good feeling makes you feel better and a little more ambitious and excited about getting up and getting around?
It really does. I mean, I really have to say yes. I
so
really,
this mind over matter thing is kind of a real thing.
To an extent, absolutely, yeah. Because I think that when you're ill, whatever sort of serious illness you're going through, I really believe that more than ever in your life at that time, hope is really everything. And
sure.
When you're stuck in this sort of dark place, you lose hope. I mean, you lose sight of hope. And when you're able to renew that hope in life through whatever reason, whether it be a personal relationship or whether it be anything, that's obviously a very positive, beneficial thing, I believe. So
well, and we've had. With your health issues, it's been kind of hard for us to set this up and get to the, figure out times that are going to work. And I know it's a struggle. And Dino was the one, Dino Manzella, who set this all up to begin with, and he's here actually helping us film this. It's really nice to, I was here a couple of weeks ago, and we met for a little while and talked, and it's nice to see you feeling positive and feeling better, because we weren't sure how this was going to go.
Right.
And that's the reality of being ill, is that if you're ill, you can have a good day, you can have a good half a day, you can have a good hour,
right,
and things can slide downhill.
Absolutely.
But you've been charming and a lot of fun today, so I'm glad to see these positive things happening. And I got to tell you, man, I think everybody in the music business, and there's a lot of young people out there, there's a lot of people that are just our age that may or may not know of you, and what you have brought to the music industry and to the entertainment business as a whole, to see you back at it, kicking some ass, being on top of things and being positive and helping people. Because seriously, with your connections and your wherewithal and your ambition, we want to see that ambition come back. And I think that all of Chicago would be willing to stand behind you to help make life easier for you. We know there's a struggle. There's a struggle with you just getting in and out of the building.
Yeah.
And us in the Chicago music scene, I know Dino and we want to make a little movement to try and help facilitate that and fix some things for you so we can make that easier. Because here's what's important. People like you are rare. And that, what you were, what you became, and what you are today is very, very valuable to the future of music, to the entertainment business in Chicago. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we're kind of sandwiched in Chicago between New York and L.A. and something and often forgot about. And then what's forgotten even more are the people behind it. And it took people like you to really motivate other people around. It doesn't matter if you managed or represented the biggest band in Chicago or the biggest actor out of Chicago. What matters is that you were part of it that kept us alive. And you can't take any of that away from Chicago, and you've been such a huge part of it. It's very exciting to see you smile, to see you be happy, and to see there potentially be some new life, maybe, a little fire under your ass that says, hey, man, Stephen Mueller's coming back.
Right.
And we're going to do some great things.
The Back from the Dead tour, right?
Back from the Dead tour. And I think that's
how I feel in a way.
Well, see, that's fantastic to see. And that hat looks kick-ass on you.
Oh, thank you.
I like the glasses.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, listen, let's take a quick little break here. We'll be back on the Dag Show, and we're here with Stephen Mueller, and let's talk a little bit more about what some of his future plans are going to be.
And he's got really good hair, folks.
I do have beautiful hair. It's so flowing and soft. Touch it, Steve. Feel how soft it is.
lovely, beautiful.
You couldn't really feel it that way. That you tapped my hair. We'll be back
I'm just
here.
admiring it from a distance.
We'll be back here on the Dag Show. And we're back here on the Dag Show with Stephen Mueller. Very excited about this interview, and it's been great learning so much about Stephen today. Stephen.
Yeah.
So now I know you got some things you want to talk about here. So why don't you go ahead and you start this off rather than listen to me run my pie hole.
Well, I mean, whatever you'd like to ask me about is fine with me.
There's something about Ronnie James Dio I think the world needs
Ronnie
to know.
James Dio. Well, the late, great Ronnie James Dio. I mean, he was... I was very fortunate to be able to count him as a true friend. I mean, I've met, like, tons of rock stars, but, it's really rare that you can actually say that someone was truly a friend. You know what I mean? That's a really rare thing. People assume, like, oh, you met so-and-so, so, oh, you're friends with him. Not really, but there's several people that I count as friends, and more importantly, that I was really fortunate where they probably counted me as a friend. And, yeah, one of those people was Ronnie James Dio. God rest his soul. Obviously an amazing talent. Everyone knows that. I think... most people aren't aware of the fact that he was just a fantastic human being on a personal level. He was a great guy, very caring guy, very loyal to his friends.
Very short.
Very short. He actually told me once when I first met him many years ago, I remember he said, as a child, I wanted to be a basketball player. And he goes, Steve, can you imagine me as a basketball player? But
like Spud Webb.
Yeah, he goes, he wrote some of his first songs like sitting in a gymnasium. He said, watching basketball games, and that's really, one of his earliest memories in terms of writing music. So, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, Ronnie was a really great guy. I mean, my last memory of him, which is kind of sad, but it really speaks volumes about him as a person, I think, was he was opening up for, I believe it was Judas Priest at Tinley Park here, and and at the time my ex-wife was going through a cancer battle, and I was really beside myself. She hadn't had the surgery yet. Fortunately everything ended well, but I didn't know that at the time. And, I spoke with Ronnie backstage at the show, and, he could tell something was wrong, and he asked me. I told him what was going on in my life, and, he just consoled me. This little guy gave me this giant bear hug, and it was just really, really great, and so positive, and just, gave me a lot of hope. And, the irony of it really was the fact that this man was actually dying of cancer at the time himself, and he didn't even realize it because he hadn't been diagnosed yet, So it's very, very sad, how he got ill and suddenly passed, but obviously his music will live on. But everyone knows what a great what a great force he was in music, but I think not a lot of people realize really what a great guy he was, especially to his fans. I mean, he would stand out in a rainstorm for hours, signing autographs for fans, and I remember he told me once that really goes back to when he was in Rainbow, I guess, with Richie Blackmore, because he said, Richie Blackmore was kind of, how should I say?
He was an asshole.
Yeah, can I say he was an asshole?
He was an asshole.
And Ronnie,
everybody knows that in the business. Richie Blackmore was a dick.
Yeah, that's basically what Ronnie said. And he said, he goes, I decided right then and there, I don't ever want to be that way to my fans. And that's when he decided, I'm going to make a lifelong sort of concerted effort to be really cool to my fans and show them that I appreciate them, and he always was.
Well, I mean, how important is that? I mean, at any point in time, when somebody who follows you or is interested in what you're doing comes and shows appreciation for you and wants a picture or whatever, I mean, what kind of a person are you if you're going to turn your back on them? Without them, you don't have a career.
Right, yeah.
You got no career. So, you know, I've heard a lot of great things about Dio, but I didn't know that you were that close with him, that you became such good friends. When you guys walked around, if you held hands, you would hold his hand really low because he was so short.
He used to send like really cool Christmas cards that always said, "Have a cool Yule," you know, with like a
just
picture of
imagine
him
getting mail from Ronnie James Dio, the Scorpions show up at your house. Excuse me, Nancy Wilson's calling you. Going, hey, what are you doing today? You know, it's pretty much a really amazing career that I think a lot of people don't know about you. This is why we're doing this interview, because I think a lot of people should know about you.
Oh, thank you.
And you know, you were friends with people like Chris Farley and
that was another great guy. You know, makes me really sad to speak about Chris, but it shouldn't, because you know he should be remembered for all of the right reasons, not for his demise, you know, really. I mean, he was such a great guy, such an approachable, down-to-earth, incredibly kind person, you know, that brought joy and laughter to millions of people, you know, and I think that's what he should be remembered for, not for, you know, his flaws or demons or for how he left this earth, you know.
We all have demons.
Right.
They're all things that haunt us all.
Right.
And something that we're either happy with about ourselves or we're extremely sad about with ourselves, I think, and I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but, you know, one of the reasons to be in this business is it gives us a chance to let go of those things that haunt us and you know, find some adulation
that's
somewhere
so true.
else.
I mean, music really heals people in a lot of ways, you know.
It does. Music, I'll tell you, without music, I probably wouldn't be here today. Music saved my life. I probably would have been dead under a bridge, you know, 40 years ago. So music is the greatest thing that's ever happened in my life. And then now to be here as I'm pushing 60 years old, be able to sit down with guys like you is just remarkable. I'm so glad that for whatever haunted me most of my life, I've gotten through it to be able to be here with guys like you.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you, Stephen. I like your hat.
And I like your hair.
So, you know, I'll tell you, you've done all these great things. You're seeming so, especially after all the time we've talked over the last month, you're seeming so much more positive. What's next?
Oh boy, that's a good question. I mean, only God knows. But you know, I'd like to get back into things, hopefully business-wise. You know, that's a big thing for me. So I'm exploring some, you know, potential opportunities with that, and you know, hopefully everything will pan out. And if we speak in the future, you know, hopefully I'll have something really positive to report to you.
I'm looking forward to it, and I think actually everybody in the Chicago music scene is looking forward to it. And we have, you know, we're interviewing a bunch of other people that are going to be speaking on your, you know, about you and, you know, on your behalf and their relationships with you and
hopefully
how they knew
good
you.
Things to say.
Yeah, well, let's hope. I'm pretty sure everything's going to be pretty excellent because people are very excited to talk about you and talk about their experiences with you, because you're known in this business as a very kind and sweet and loving human being.
Thank you.
And you know, it's everybody's concerned about the things that, you know, you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And to see you uplifted and feeling good about things makes me feel good, and I'm really honored to be here. I can't even begin to tell you how much I appreciate you inviting me into your home, letting me do this means the world to me.
Could I mention
you can. You're done talking. No, I'm kidding. Of course you can.
I about just over a year ago, for my birthday party, I actually turned it into a fundraiser for to benefit MS, for the National MS Society, and we actually were really blessed to have the amazing Neo, who's not a rock performer, but he's a very, very popular sort of pop R&B performer, and, you know, performed at it, and we raised a lot of money for you know, to benefit people suffering for MS. You know, we raised, you know, I'm not going to mention exactly how much, but
just say it.
32,000.
That's a lot of money.
In one night. Yeah, it's a good deal.
That's outstanding.
Yeah. So I was really, really happy and really blessed to be able
and
to have the
people-
opportunity to do that. So.
And there's videos on YouTube of all these famous celebrities wishing you happy birthday.
Yeah.
Tara Reid, who I've always wanted to sleep with.
And she blew me a kiss. She blew me a kiss on the video.
Oh, God, I want Tara Reid to blow me a kiss in a lot of different places. But anyway, that's another story. But it was really cool to watch those videos and to see the adulation and love that so many people in the entertainment business. Kirsten Dunst was in that video. All these
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
And the incredible Dino Manzella.
And I've never heard of him. I don't know who Dino Manzella is.
You got to Google him. Check it out.
I'll Google him. I'll check his Wikipedia out. Yeah. It was just it was really cool, and I knew who you were, and I knew that you had. You were part of the rocker, but I never knew how expansive your connections to the entertainment business are. We need you back here.
Well, thank you. I'm going to do my best to come back very soon.
Get back here soon. Get back on this game. By the way, I got a lot of shit going on. I could use some of your help. So,
alrighty.
I'm going to need some of your connections.
Alrighty.
And, I don't know. This interview isn't over in the sense that I think this is going to be an ongoing thing. And which camera am I looking at? This one here. I want to tell you guys, when you're... How do I say this? It's remarkable to see... It's sad to see people, go down, whether it's because of health reasons or mental health reasons or whatever the case may be. But to watch them come back up is fabulous. And it's exciting. And I've been there. So it's, I left the music industry for a while too. And to come back up and to really be on fire and feel good about yourself and for everybody else to be rallying around you is really a remarkable feeling. We have to, as an industry, embrace one another and work very, very hard to make sure that we keep Chicago music, Illinois music, at the forefront. This is why I'm so excited about my involvement in the Illinois Rock and Roll Museum, and I can't wait to get you there. And we're going to get you there. Oh, you're coming to the Rock and Roll Museum.
All righty, I look forward to it.
And seeing this unbelievable place. They're going to open next year because you're such a big part of the history of music here in Chicago. And
thank you very much.
And you're going to your journey isn't over. Your what you delivered to the music industry. I think the greatest things you're going to deliver have yet to be seen. And thank you, Lola, for reinvigorating him and making him feel positive about tomorrow. That is really, really huge. And everybody in the music industry is going to thank Lola one day for making you smile and keeping you smiling.
Thank you, Dag, and I'm honored to be part of your show. And thanks for everything. I appreciate it.
Oh, dude, it's awesome. You're an incredible guy. And get out. Get to Amazon, pick up this book, Almost Famous. It's really cool. It's an easy read. It's very well written. You're a great writer, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're really good at just putting your thoughts and making them easy to comprehend. And get out, get Almost Famous, and how much does it cost? It's $375 a copy?
It's really funny because I was actually on, I was just browsing the net the other day and I saw one of my other books, which is actually, I've written a number of history books which are totally unrelated to the entertainment industry, just as a hobby. It's just an interest of mine. And I saw one of my history books on eBay. A guy was selling it for something like $700. And I just had to absolutely laugh. I thought to myself, my gosh, is there something I'm not aware of? But I'll sign every page of the book for you for $700.
God bless.
I honestly don't know what it's going for right now on Amazon. I believe it's like $15 roughly.
$15.
Yeah.
Get out and get this book. It's a lot of fun. There's just picture after picture after picture after picture of you and famous people. Yeah. We got to bring. We're going to make sure the whole world knows about you all over again.
Well, thank you.
You're
very
really
much.
a wonderful man. Give me a hug, you son of a bitch.
All right. It's good seeing you.
And I love the hat. And
thank you very much.
We'll be back to do a follow-up interview with Stephen Mueller. Did you change cameras on me?
And the hair will still be good.
My hair will be beautiful. Everybody's yelling at me to cut my hair, and I'm like 7 more months and I'll be ready. But we'll be back here with Stephen Mueller again, and we have so much going here. Thank you all for joining us and being part of this and this remarkable man. and the Chicago music industry
Thank you,
loves
Dag. I
brother.
appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We love you, man. Peace out, everybody. Get to the Dag Show, dagshow.com, facebook.com/the Dag Show, and keep watching out for this guy. He's back. He's back.
Steve, happy 50th, brother. I love you. The day I met you, I said, this is good people, man.
This is Tara Reid, and I hope you're having a great time with your friends in Chicago. And I want to sing you a little song. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Now I want you to sing the shit out of Mambo number 5 tonight. Think of me, cutie. Bye.
Mr. Mueller, happy birthday, my friend. It's Dino Manzella from Afternight Productions. Worked many years with you. Miss you, buddy. Happy 50th.
Hey, Steve, what's up, buddy? Happy 50th birthday. Oh my God, stay strong, buddy. Believe, have faith, never give up. You are the man. Steve, stay strong. You have a lot of people love you. Happy birthday, buddy.
Hey Steve, Kelly Crawl with the Chicago Cubs on NBC Sports Chicago here. I know you're a big Chicago guy and also an incredible author. 9 books to date already. I can barely write 9 scripts a day. And you're running Mueller Entertainment as well as continuing to be active in fundraising for MS research. We are so blessed to know kind-hearted, motivated people like you. Happy early birthday, Steve. I hope it is the best one yet. And here's to many, many more wonderful, healthy years. Keep doing your thing, my friend.
Stephen Mueller, Arianthi here, wishing you a happy 50th birthday. And I hope you feel better, and I hope you have an amazing year ahead, filled with love and light and happiness. And just have an amazing day. Lots of love. Take care.
Mr. Stephen Mueller, what's going on, man? This is Neo. So, listen, I heard, first and foremost, I want to say happy early birthday. I've been told that your 50th is October 16th. That's kind of cool. My 40th is October 18th. That makes you a Libra like me, I believe. Even cooler person. Keep your heads up. Congratulations on everything. Happy early birthday, brother. It's Neo. Peace and love.
Say happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stephen. Happy birthday to you. Have a nice one with your loved ones and friends. We love you, man. Ciao.
How old is he? 50. You're 50? Why did I not know you're 50?
I think it's because he's funny. I think when you're funny, you seem less like 50.
Wow. Happy birthday.
It's the Dag Show. Live from Dag Nabbit Studios in Chicago,